what creates joy, what blocks us from joy, because I think many times we talk about how can we bring joy in our life, but it's also important to acknowledge what barriers block that joy from our lives and how we can get through that. If we don't talk about that, then sometimes we don't think we have joy in our life because we're not recognizing what barriers are there that maybe we could work through to knock them down. I'm going to talk about why you even want joy in your life besides the obvious, and how we can bring joy into our lives. I'm going to give you a lot of ideas. I don't expect you to do all of them, but some of them will resonate for you and some won't. And that's okay. Like, it's really important when we are in discussions like this about joy and bringing gratitude into our lives and more love and compassion into our lives. Certain ways don't work for us, and that's okay. That doesn't mean we can't get those things. That doesn't mean we're not a compassionate person, or I can't be a joyful person because Julianne said this was a way to bring joy in, but I don't like to do that. It's kind of like some people like to ride a bike, some people like to walk, some people like to kayak, but we're all getting exercise in all those different ways. It doesn't mean you're less than. So don't worry if some of the ideas don't resonate. That is perfectly fine. Now, the reason that I name this Joy is Not an Accident is because, like all things in life, no matter what we want, we have to put some energy into it. I'm not going to call it work, because when I call it work, people go, ew, I don't have time. Work. Oh, that sounds like a bad word, work. That sounds like too much trouble, work. So I am very big on words and what kind of words you use. And that's because your mind is always listening to what you say. Even when you don't say things out loud, your mind listens. I had a terrible habit earlier in my life of calling myself stupid. And it wasn't anyone else, but that's what my brain was hearing. And that made me less than, because I was saying that. So I'm going to call this putting the energy in, right? Energy in. And you know, all of you practitioners of this group know that when you put that energy in, you get it back, and usually multifold, because you're opening up to that. And so things that sound like work become routine if you do them, and you do them again, and you do them again. But I am also a great believer in whatever you choose to take on in your life, that you do it in very small bites. Now, if you're like me, I'm extremely, well, not anymore, so I'm not going to say that. I'm going to choose my words. I used to be extremely impatient, and that only brought me frustration and heartache. So now I have jokes around my house about patience. For instance, in my kitchen, I have a Farklick drawing that says, God grant me patience. And underneath it says, please hurry. I have another sticker in my house that says, I want everything and I want it now. And underneath it says, is that a problem? So these are reminders for me, that that's my nemesis, right? We all have something that's our nemesis in life, something that we are going to be triggered on, that we are going to be tested on for probably my whole life. For me, it's going to be patience. So I have these little things around. Joy is the same way. The more we work on what brings me joy, how can I get it, what gets in the way, and take small steps for all three of those options, the more joy we'll bring into our lives. And, you know, I can't step from here to Castle Shannon. And our brains, and if you have any impatience in your brain, maybe, then our brains get wired to say, why aren't you doing this faster? Why isn't this happening faster? What more could you be doing? You must not be doing enough. And that's the kind of mind talk that we have. And that's one of the barriers of getting more joy in your life. It's your own self-speak. So what I'd like you to do for a moment, so we know the end of the path, so to speak, is to, everyone, if you will, are willing and able, close your eyes and picture a moment in time that made you feel joyful. Maybe it was a hike you took. Maybe it was an event you went to. Maybe it was a trip you took. Maybe it was laughing with someone. But if you'd each go to that place and really center into that moment and see what you picture, visualize your smile. Maybe you're even laughing. What does the air feel like around you? What were you wearing? What was the day like? Was it sunny? Was it rainy? What did it smell like where you were? All of these pieces are a part of what made you feel joyful in that moment. And just sit in that for the next 10 seconds. And open your eyes. And whatever that was you were feeling, that's what we want to capture in our everyday life as much as possible. Joy isn't something you just bump into. Awareness gives you joy. And I have always believed in what I call DSK, deepening self-knowledge. That is a lifelong journey. And the more we're self-aware, the more we can move out what doesn't serve us and move in what does serve us. But if we're not aware, then we can't do that very efficiently. And our awareness, because I think everyone in this group are a pretty aware group of people compared to the masses, but we could still do it more. I really find this because of my dog Joy, which I have this live 4-legged walking affirmation. I named my dog Joy on purpose so that I could wake up to joy. and walk joy and come home to joy and feed my joy. And what am I doing then? It's all about my dog, but what is my brain hearing? I'm walking with joy. I'm coming home to joy. I'm sleeping with joy, right? So those are the thoughts that my brain is keeping. And it's interesting because when I walk with her, which I love to walk, I have become so attuned to nature. I get excited when I see that the walnuts this year are the size of tennis balls. I find that fascinating. Anyone out there dig in the dirt, grow flowers, vegetables, or anything like that? Anybody do that? Yeah. So Isabel, you know what I'm talking about. As the plants come out of the ground, this was the first year I really planted. Oh, it's so exciting because last year I made a garden of giant sunflowers. It made me eternally joyful every single morning to see all those sunflowers. But the universe being what it is, I didn't get one sunflower this year. I planted a whole bunch of seeds, but I got other flowers. And so I've gotten to the point when I walk that I notice what's the new flower. Now every day I get up, what new tree is turning? Is it turning yellow? Is it turning red? You know, the burning bushes are starting to turn really red. So that's how I receive a lot of joy every year, is to become more in tune with nature, because nature has so much beauty in it, and it's constant, it's ever changing, it's always new. I've posted before on Facebook about how the leaves are on the sidewalk and then it rains, and then when the wind comes, their imprint and color is in the sidewalk. And to me, it's like a work of art, and that gives me joy. So like I said, practice wherever you go, whether you're driving or you're walking, whenever you get outside, or look outside your window if you don't get out that often. What can you notice that's new? We live in Pennsylvania where our outside is changing all the time. It is never the same. You know, sometime we're going to have a big rain and a wind, and all of a sudden all these leaves are going to be gone, right? And then the branches will be different. And in the winter, I love it when the wet snow comes and just lays on each branch like it's some kind of large painting that's unreal. And if you get the opportunity to see a bright red cardinal sit on that dark branch with the snow on it, it's breathtaking. So one of the things I'm going to suggest is, even if you are the most naturalistic type of person, what more can you notice? Because again, like everything, once you take that first baby step and you say, I've driven down this road 1,000 times and I never noticed that rose bush. Then the next time you drive, you're going to notice something else. I never noticed that guy in his beagles before. I never noticed those people pushing that happy baby in that stroller. You know, I always say we're always very frustrated if we drive and we get a flat tire. But how many times do we get to our destination and go, whoo, made it safely? It's not something we normally do purposely, But I started to add that to my repertoire of life so that when I go somewhere, I'll be driving along. I went to Highland Park today and I went, beautiful day, not much traffic, no slowdowns. My car is running well. I'm going to a park. I have my dog. You know, there's this whole list of joyful things you can bring in your life. One of the things I do when I wake up in the morning and I come into consciousness, really before I even open my eyes, I first am grateful that I have another day. And then I think about having a bed and having sheets and having blankets and having pillows, having my dog there and electricity and food in my refrigerator and indoor plumbing, which is one of my favorites. So what I'd like you to do is a little exercise right now is write down something within your own surroundings that maybe you could be a little more joyful about right now and tomorrow, and write it on a piece of paper. And the reason I said to have a marker, if you can, just write it down. And then I'm going to count to 3 and we're all going to show it on the screen. And Pat's going to write it in the chat if she likes. So what is in your surroundings that perhaps you could appreciate a little more? Just give me a thumbs up when you've written yours. You can do that in the reactions. Thanks, Isabel. Kathy, Linda, did you get something? All right, everybody just take it and quiet time, light. Mine says my artwork. I can't quite see yours, Kathy. I don't think you really have it on your camera. Pull it back a little bit. It's too close now. What's it say? Peace? Peaceful surroundings. Linda, do you have something? You need to unmute.
Silence.
Silence. Yeah. Oh, Pat said birds in my neighbor's trees. Yeah, I love the birds in Pennsylvania. So that's what I meant about baby steps, is getting a little further into our world and finding a little bit more joy. And even if you did that once a day, you will find that automatically, if joy is what you're after, it will come into your life more often. So I guess it's 10 years ago now, I went through a pretty dark period in my life. I'm sure every single person on this call has had those times, because life's a roller coaster, right? Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's difficult. I won't say it's bad, because all those moments get us to right here. But I don't think there are things in life that are bad. I think they're more difficult. And I think there's a big difference between that. And during that period, I became a certified laughter leader. And I learned about good-hearted living, which we're going to go through in a little bit. And that's where I really learned about gratitude. And it's interesting because as we go through life, a lot of times we think that joy is about getting something. And what I've learned is joy is just as much about giving something. I made a pact with myself, I think it's 2 years now, to do 2 good deeds a day, deliberately, right? So again, it's a deliberate choice. I don't leave it up to chance. It's a deliberate choice. And it could be picking a nail out of the road. There's a wonderful organization called Random Acts of Kindness. You can find them at randomactsofkindness.org. And I am a certified racktivist, which means I'm a random act of kindness activist. And so we have this area where we share random acts of kindness that we do. And one day I posted there, I picked a nail out of the street today. And somebody else from the group wrote back and said, I ride a bicycle, thank you. And that's the thing too. Sometimes what you do as a good deed isn't to any one person directly, right? So your good deed could be voting. Your good deed could be, I have a neighbor who's 90. So it's easy for me to do good deeds because I'll pick her weeds, or I'll take her trash out, or I'll buy her special bread at the store, or my other neighbor who's going to be 80, who can't get around much anymore. I just visit her because she can't get out. Or I'm really into making my own cards that kind of look like a 4-year-old made them, but people really appreciate it. So I've really found that giving will give you just as much joy as receiving. And like I said, we really need to look at what blocks our joy. So for a moment, what I'd like you to do is think about one characteristic of life that you think blocks your joy. And then I'm going to have everyone unmute and share that. What one characteristic of life or action in life blocks your joy? I'm going to wait, and then I'll give you some other examples. Linda?
Impatience.
What's that? Impatience? Okay. Kathy?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now.
Okay. Marianne?
Being too busy, just running, rushing, being task oriented.
Yeah. Isabel?
My depression.
What's that?
My depression.
Yeah. And sadness.
Yeah.
Will get in the way of our joy. And Pat, if you have anything, you can put it in the chat. So here are some other things that maybe you haven't thought of. Not getting enough sleep is huge. For us to be open to receive joy, our body must be rested. And it's just healthier. But your body must be rested. And when your body's not rested, you're a lot more impatient, for sure. What you eat, how late do you eat? Because that affects your sleep, but it also affects how you go through your day. Do you keep hydrated, right? Pat said overwhelming noise in her apartment building. right? I'm so with you, Pat, because I am a noise freak. One of the things I love about my neighborhood is at least after 11 o'clock, it is silent.
Mhm.
And I just really love that. But not everybody does.
Right.
Other things that can get in the way of your joy are social media, Facebook, the
Mhm.
news. You know, watching the news before you go to bed is, boy, you want a blocker of joy. That's it. My suggestion is that you sleep to silence or soft music. I was saying before, a couple of nights a week, I go to sleep to singing bowls because I love singing bowls. And I found several playlists on Spotify. And I just put that on. I put my timer and for an hour, and that's the way I go to sleep. And it makes me relax, and it makes me, you know, and there's a million meditations. We do those. Kathy's found some great meditations that we've used in our services. That's a wonderful way to bring yourself into a restful sleep and block out the noise. The noise can be actual noise, or the noise can be that to-do list that's way too long. I don't know about you, but I do have those times where I'm like, oh, I got to do this, and I got to do this, I got to do this. And I need to just shut that off, right? Because I'm not going to do that at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm not getting up to do it. So I might as well shut that out. And that will really help. Don't underestimate what you do before you go to bed at night. That's huge, huge. If you don't take away anything else from today, do not underestimate what you do before you go to bed at night. Makes a huge difference. So anyway, when I was certified as a laughter leader, my mentor, Steve Wilson, came up with good-hearted living. And he felt that good-hearted living was a way for us to bring joy into our life besides laughter, because that's what he was teaching about, was creating your own true mirthful laughter from within. Which reminds me, sometime, Marianne, when we all get together, I should do a laughter workshop, laughter session. That'd be great. Anyway, so these go by the days of the week, but of course you can do them other times. I always say, if there's any engineers in the group, if I say compliments on Mondays, you can really do them on Thursdays. So it's just so people don't get locked in. So Mondays is for compliments. And giving people, it goes both ways. A lot of times we see people and we think their hair's nice, or their hat's nice, or their scarf's nice, or their shoes are nice, or whatever. And we don't say anything, and I don't know why. It takes 3 seconds. And that person always feels better. So giving compliments is awesome. And on the other side, when you get a compliment,
Mhm.
the response needs to be, thank you. Not a story about why it isn't true. Right? As ladies, sometimes we tend to say, somebody says, oh, I like your hair. And you go, oh, really? I need to get it cut. When we do things like that, it's like we're saying, thanks for the gift, but no thanks. Right? So think about that the next time somebody gives you a compliment. Go back to that deepening self-knowledge. Do you just say thank you, or do you negate it in some way? Because that becomes a barrier to joy, right? If someone gives you a compliment, instead of taking it in and feeling good about it, feeling joyful, you block it. So just something to be aware of. Tuesdays are for flexibility. The more rigid you are in your life, the less joy can seep in. If you know how everything should be, if should is one of your favorite words, you will have trouble allowing joy to come into your life. Flexibility is very important, and it comes in many ways. I mean, look what we've been going through for the last year and a half. For those who aren't flexible, whether it be a business or in your personal life, it's going to be much more difficult. You know, I talked about dark days. We've all had dark days. We've all had physical, emotional issues in our lives. Nobody gets out scot-free.
Right.
The more flexible we are with those, the more open we are to go through them so that we can feel the joy on the other side. And part of that joy is you did get through it. Don't forget to celebrate your own accomplishments. Sometimes we forget that we're awesome, that we did this task we said we needed, that we got through this divorce, that we got through this death, that we got through this move, that we got through this college degree, that we got our children off to college, that we walked 5 miles, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be big. That I got up this morning and I actually did the dishes. Yay! I got it done. We set up this like, oh, well, if I took a walk, that's not really a big deal. I would have to walk 5 miles for it to be a big deal. We need to be a little more graceful and kindful to ourselves. And that will also fill us up with joy, because we will appreciate what it is we do. And your brains are really wired for the negative. That's how our brains are wired. So we really need to work on the rewire. I heard a physician talk once. He was a brain surgeon, and he talked about you have about 18 seconds to move the curve. So if you have something coming into your life and it's negative, you can either suck it in, you got about 18 seconds to move in another direction. Not that you can't move in the other direction later, but it gets more difficult. So back to that deepening self-awareness, the quicker we can learn what is serving us and what isn't, the more joy we can have in our lives. The best therapist I ever had, that used to be her favorite sentence to me. How's that working for you? How's that working for you? Always making me accountable. You're doing that? How's that working for you? So along with our self-awareness, we also have to be accountable for our choices. And the beautiful aspect of life is that every second of every day, we get to make another choice. We never have to be stuck. And it's difficult when you realize that you are making the choice to be stuck, when you take that accountability. So it's kind of tough to say, ooh, I am making that choice, but it also frees you to make another choice. So Wednesdays are for gratitude, and you can never have too much gratitude. And it was interesting. I taught gratitude to, I don't know, thousands of people during this dark period before I thought, maybe I should have more gratitude. So I actually wrote a book called A Little Bit of Gratitude Goes a Long Way. And whenever I talk about it, it's 30 different ways to have gratitude. And then it has an exercise. So every time I talk about gratitude, I like to grab the book, open it to a random page and read it. So Here's the page I opened to. I am thankful for my life. The mere idea that I am alive today is astounding. It is no small wonder.
Right.
Focusing on the precious gift I have in just being alive showers my day with gratitude. So then the exercise is wake up and rejoice. Write about the change in your entire day because you were grateful for just being alive.
Right.
So I'm a big proponent on homework. And here's my homework for everyone that's here. Tomorrow morning, really work on thinking as soon as you wake up, instead of grabbing your phone, if that's your habit, or anything else, I want you to do this. Yay! And be excited that you got another day. Because there will be hundreds of thousands of people around the world that thought they would wake up the next day and they will not. And when you start your day like that, joy just swells in like a rushing river. Everything else looks different. Okay. Thursday. Thursday is for kindness. And here's the thing. We need to remind ourselves about our own kindness, because sometimes we don't have any idea how it makes people feel. So I'm going to use my wonderful neighbor, Lorraine, 90 years old or 90 years young. And I buy her this rye bread that she really likes at Whole Foods. So I was sitting on her porch with her the other day and she was talking and she said, you know, my taste buds are going. I can hardly taste anything anymore. And now, but some days I know I take that rye bread you get me and I put some ham on it and some cheese and I put it in the toaster oven. And then I take it out and put a piece of tomato on it. And it's like heaven. And it's all about the bread. And I came home that day and I went, who knew that bread would make someone so happy?
Right.
Right? And it gave me so much joy because that is so easy for me to do.
Right.
And it makes her so happy.
Right.
So Fridays are for forgiveness. And forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves. And with your permission, I'd like to do a very short meditation on forgiveness. So if you could just get comfortable in your chair, put your hands in your lap or down by your sides, close your eyes if you're willing or able, and just get comfortable. In fact, I'm going to sit back in my chair too. And breathe in and breathe out through your mouth. Breathe in through your nose. Breathe out through your mouth. And continue to breathe in and out, maybe by the count of 4, 4 in, 4 out. And as you concentrate on your breathing, I want you to take a moment and visualize a very bright white light sitting on top of your head. And that white light is filled with forgiveness for yourself, for a word you said, for a deed you did, or what you consider a mistake you made. And now visualize that white light surrounding your entire head. And as it is pushing your own forgiveness through your head and then down through your neck and across your shoulders. And you're pushing and forgiving through your heart and your chest and your entire back and your abdomen and down your arms and out your fingers, and just feel how much lighter it feels to forgive yourself. And now that light is filling up the entire upper part of your body and flowing through your pelvic area and through your thighs, over your knees. Everything's just feeling lighter, letting go, and down your legs, across your feet, and out your toes, so that that white light is releasing you from the top of your head all the way down and out your toes. And breathe in and breathe out, and silently say to yourself, I forgive me. I forgive me. And as you let it go, you can move on and make another choice. Breathe in and breathe out. And come back to center in the room we're in. And take a moment to really feel the difference in the weight of your body and your heart and your mind when you are able to forgive yourself for being a human being. None of us are perfect. So the weekends are for chocolate or whatever it is that makes you happy. It could be bubble baths. It doesn't matter. In fact, does anybody want to share what makes them really happy? How they celebrate themselves? If it's not chocolate. Yeah, Linda.
Going out with friends and family.
Going out with friends and family. So the idea is that you need to take care of you to be a better you. And when you take care of you, like I was talking about with sleep, you will be able to take in more joy. And when you take care of you, you'll be able to share more joy because you'll have a better you to do that with. So concentrate on being more aware of your surroundings. Look and see what you missed before. Be aware of what blocks you and keeps you from giving and receiving joy. It is a two-way street. It goes out and it comes back in. And that's what I got for you. Does anybody have any questions? This was joyful for me.
It's fabulous.
Thank you.
Everybody go ahead and unmute